Hi there and welcome to the Barbara Young channel and welcome to my Friday Sews. First of all, just like to start by saying thank you to Jen from Today in Jen's Sewing Room for creating the hashtag Friday Sews. And this week, well, what have I been doing this week? So this week I have made something. It's a pinafore dress, and anybody that saw last week saw me show you this pinafore dress, which is one that I self-drafted. Now this is one that I made previously. It was a curtain and now it's a pinafore dress. A nice little upcycle. I self-drafted this pattern because I didn't have a pinafore dress that I had a pattern of or particularly liked one that I'd seen, so I gave this one a go. Now I wanted to remake this one because there were just one or two little things that I wanted to alter and amend and possibly just try and do a bit better. So I've remade this pinafore dress, and I've made it using this stuff, which is some Laura Ashley material. Now I did say about this, I think I did mention it last week, don't remember. If you have a look at last week or the week before, I've mentioned it. But it's this material anyway that I thrifted, and I got in the end over or nearly 3 meters of it for less than £5 if I remember rightly. So it is a 55% linen, 33% cotton, 12% nylon, and yeah, so you've got this. That's actually the way up that it goes, like that, with this quite broad and large pattern print to it of flowers, bluish and slightly purpley coloured flowers. I think they're meant to be roses by the looks of it, I would say. But yeah, very, very nice fabric. It does feel like an upholstery fabric. It's quite heavy, but as I say, it's basically a linen cotton blend. So that is what I use, because to me, things like pinafore dresses, a bit like dungarees, I expect them to have some sort of slightly more structured fabric. So that's what I've used. So what I will do is grab the pinafore, this one, and I'll put it on and we'll have a look at it. And here we are, one pinafore dress, or another one should I say. So yeah, it's come out really quite nice. I mean, it's a basic pattern anyway. I tried to keep it as simple as possible by having it effectively as like squares or rectangles. I mean, for instance, the other side of the this bib section, as it were, front, is a facing piece, but that is just that bit on the front. It doesn't come down any further onto the skirt section, so it is literally just a square piece on the back, which helps it to, give it a bit more security. Well, no, stability, that's it. I'll get there. But yeah, the whole pattern is I wanted it to be as simple as possible. I mean, on the back I've got a triangular section, which was a little bit more taxing because I had to obviously fashion that so it would fit, because there's a little bit of curvature on the back there. But the front is literally just one big long rectangle. The back section is just one big square, but with a couple of pleats in there just to give it a little bit of shaping, because I felt that it needed it. The only place there with any significant shaping really is this front bit here. There was a bit of shaping in here on this side panel, but that is a straight seam. Doesn't need anything else as far as I'm concerned. And then a couple of straps come over the back, from the back, to help hold it up. Now I could have used like the straps stuff you get for dungarees, the metal hooks and stuff, but I decided it was just a little bit too much messing around, and also the cost of it. I've got to pay for that hardware, haven't I? And I've got buttons and a buttonholes you can do on the sewing machine, so it got buttons rather than the hardware. But that's fine for me. That's what I wanted, nice and simple. The only thing that my previous version didn't really have was pockets. Now on this one, I've put pockets on the side, so it makes a big difference. Now these, trying to keep it simple, two big squares basically. Well, they are rectangles because I had them quite wide, but basically just stitched them into this seam line here, stitched along the bottom. Now they are faced, so basically I just got two pieces, stitched them together, turned them through, there we go, not got to worry about any other seams. Stitched them into the seams on the side here, and there you go, 2 pockets, 2 quite large pockets, really quite nice, and they're just at the right height for me. And I suppose, you know, if I ever gave this pan to somebody, they could actually put the pockets at whatever height they wanted, because you're putting them into the seam, you can just adjust it to whatever height you would want to, wouldn't you? So I could have the, you know, I could have a much longer pocket that comes all the way down, you know, and really fill the things up. But yeah, that's good enough for me. I thought that was just fine. So pockets on there, which is what I wanted. The other thing that I've changed on this one is here on the side, the closure. Now the closure section is still the same. I'll just come a bit closer so I can show it to you. The closure section is still the same. Now on most of these type of things, the closure sits forward, but because that's a slightly curved seam, I decided to put the closure on the back seam there. And originally I'd put buttons on there, but they're quite large buttons and I didn't want that. And the way that I formed this placket piece means it's quite bulky, especially with this material anyway. So what I've done is I've put in 2 large snap poppers on there. So it makes it really easy, but these poppers are quite sturdy, so they're not going to come undone unless I give them a bit of a pull. So yeah, they are snap poppers on the side there, which means that that helps close up that waist area. So there you go. Yeah, and I think that came out really well. And like I say, it's a very simple design. And the reason, like I said, is that I just wanted to keep it simple. I didn't want anything really fancy. I had to make the pattern up myself. So, and I'm not a pattern drafter. I don't have the skills. I don't have the knowledge of doing that. It's something that I am slowly learning. But to start off with, if it's simple, it'll probably work. So there we go. My Pinafore dress in Laura Ashley upholstery material, I think it is, but it's very nice. It is, honestly, it's really lovely. I mean, let me just show you that. See that lovely rose, I think it is, like a blue rose on there. But yeah, I'm really pleased with it. It's come out really, really well. It's really nice. And like I say, it fits me perfectly because I made it to be fitting for me. So there you go. One Pinafore dress. There is one slight thing that I'm not so happy about, but it's okay. On the back, where the crossover is, it doesn't cross over in quite the right point. It's because I haven't got this angle correct of where the straps come out, but I've yet to work out what would be the best angle for me. But I suppose that's the thing. If you bought something like this, it'd just be set at one angle, and if it was too wide or too narrow, you wouldn't be able to do anything about it, would you really? You'd be stuck with it. So you might have the same issue that I've got with this one. But I mean, it's something I want to obviously have a go at sorting out when I make this again. But you know, it's a minor issue. But other than that, I'm perfectly happy. So there you go. Pinafore dress. Now I've been continuing with my practicing of my craft, needle binding, or Nalbinding as it's known in its more Scandinavian names, or Nalbinding, or however it might be pronounced. For me, it's needle binding. So I've been having a go and doing another pair of mitts, basically fingerless mitts. So I've been using 2 wools. Let me say that again. Didn't sound right. That 2 wools. 2 sets of wool, 2 colours of wool, 2 wools, wool, never mind, I'll get over it. 2 colours of wool. This black wool, which I'd used to make a pair of fingerless mitts previously, and this sort of browny, slightly grey wool, so I've got plenty of. So what I've been doing, I've been actually doing them at the same time. So I do part of one and then the other, so I keep the length the same so I don't get out of sync. But basically there you go. I mean, I've got so far with them, You can see they're black at the bottom, and then they're that browny grey as it goes up. And then as I get to where the thumb will be, which I'm not far from actually doing that, almost at the point where I'm going to probably start putting the hole in for the thumb, I'll do that row and come round, and then I'll use some of that black again for the very top to finish it off. So I'll have some black at top and bottom on there. So yeah, so I've been practicing that. I've only practiced trying to do these fingerless mitts because I've worked out how to do them in their most basic form. You know, they're nothing special, nothing flash, you know, they're not, you know, I'm not doing any fancy techniques, and I'm sure there must be some sort of more fancy techniques for doing this craft, but I didn't want to be getting stuck into doing complicated things until I'd really got to grips with the basics, and that's what I'm still doing, getting to grips with the basics on this. I say I don't really know what this stitch is, you know, I'm not sure. There are plenty of stitches. It's something I'm looking into, and I'm trying to research and trying to understand more about the craft. But yeah, carrying on with these. Hopefully by next week I'll have these done, and I'll have another pair of fingerless mitts that are using the craft needle binding. So there we go, that's coming along nicely. Now, as per usual, I've been past my local thrift store like I do pretty much every week. It's a bit of a weekly habit, I suppose, and I ought to get out of it because it's a bit of a bad habit, I suppose, going there all the time. But I did pick up a little bit of fabric again, and the first one is this stuff. There we go. That looks very nice, doesn't it? I noticed that it's got one or two little marks on there, little dirt marks and that, probably because this has been sat around in somebody else's cupboard, drawer, wardrobe or whatever. Just getting a little bit grubby and in need of a bit of a wash. But that's lovely, isn't it? It's that lovely sort of, I don't know what it is, it's sort of floral print of some sort. I can't decide which way up it needs to go neither. Now this is, it feels like a cotton stretch, a cotton stretch. Someday, a cotton jersey with some stretch to it, and it's got some stretch on the width but not on the length, so that's brilliant. So this is something I could make. One of two things. I could make some more nightwear, some stretchy stuff, like a proper PJs, or I could make something like this black, like long tee thing on. It's you know, it comes down really quite long. You'd almost call it a dress, but it's like a really long tee, but it is very stretchy. So I could make something like this, and then I'd have another one of these, because this is great for layering up, putting on. I can put something else on top of this, and then it's like if I wear this Pinafore, I can put this on. I can actually put a t-shirt or something else on underneath the Pinafore, and then the jumper on top. So it's great for all that layering when it's rough, horrible, nasty weather like we've got. Well, it's not nasty weather. It has actually snowed, but I'll tell you a bit about that in a moment. So there we go. But yeah, it's got this stretch on the width, and it seems to recover quite well. But this lovely, amazing print. It's really, really pretty. I'm not quite sure how much I've got here, but I've got a reasonable amount, enough to make something reasonable. Now the second item is this. Let's just open it up, and I think, now it doesn't say that it's a cotton, but it feels like it's either cotton or a polycotton. There we go. That's what you've got. This sort of big broad leaf print on there, branches, a little bit of branches, and I don't know what it is, but yeah, I've not got a spectacular amount of this, but enough probably to do a top, I reckon. So yeah, that's quite nice. Now this one does have a salvage on here that I can read. It says Harlequin, copyright Coppice, exclusively designed and printed in the UK. So there you go. That is what that is. And again, it's quite stiff this is, a stiff material. So I think it's either 100% cotton or it's a poly cotton. But there's a certain amount of weight in that, even though it's not a lot of material. Whereas this cotton jersey, this is really lightweight, this is, and a little bit see-through, maybe a little bit sheer, but that's not a problem. Like I say, if I make something like this, I'll be layering it, and if it's PJs, it'll only be me. So there we go. Last up is this stuff. Now this stuff is a bit odd looking, isn't it? There is a label on there. I think that's just the label telling me where it was originally from a high street shop, and how much, well, what length they bought. They obviously bought quite a bit of it, by the looks of it. Now it says vintage mink, but I think what that is referring to is the colour, because this, as far as I'm concerned by its feel and the way it looks, is a faux leather. It's not a real leather. You know, I had real leather jackets, and I've had some real leather items. Don't really do real leather much. I don't mind real leather. I'm not against it, but I know that some people are not for real leather. It's something that obviously they're concerned about, and I suppose it's quite true that really we ought to be considerate of having real leather, especially with where that comes from. You know, if we're not looking after our food chain and animal welfare properly, then we have to question where some of our stuff comes from. So I do tend to go for faux leather rather than real leather, even though I personally don't have an issue with using real leather. But there we go. Let's not get onto that topic. Faux leather in this, what is meant to be like mink colour. So yeah, that's quite nice. Not got a terrible amount of this, so I'm not quite sure what I use that for. Maybe a small top, or I could use it as an accent colour or piecing within another garment. So yeah, again, this is slightly more weighted. It doesn't have that much drape to it because of what it is. It's a faux leather. So there we go. Yeah, it's quite nice. So that was my thrifting for this week that I picked up. 3 nice pieces of material that all have possible different uses, so I just have to see what I get out of them. Now the next item that I'm going to show you is not a sewing item. I suppose you could put it in the category of life. It very well fit into that category. Recently there was I suppose a process or something that got me intrigued, and I did a little bit of looking, and I ended up finding a film that interested me. And the film is actually about a particular person. Well, actually, it's more than just one particular person, even though it seems to focus initially, you'd think, on one person. It's actually about Anne Frank. And the film is this one, entitled Anne Frank. Now, this is a DVD. I went hunting for it. I say there was a process to get in there to finding this, and I did find it, and it didn't cost too much, so I bought it. And I bought it because it's about, obviously, past events, and I'm into history. I like history. I enjoy history. I particularly like ancient history and prehistory, but I do enjoy more what I would call modern history, and this fits into modern history because I think our modern history, as it were, can give us some lessons for today's life. But anyway, I went through this process, found this film, thought, yes, I want to watch that. I want to see what it's about. Now, this DVD I got hold of, and I have watched it. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who have heard of Anne Frank and heard about her diaries and heard about her events. And I think this film really quite poignantly shows the events that led up to that and that were happening in not just her life, but her family's life and other people's lives, but also the lives of many, many other people in Europe and across the world, really. So yeah, it was very interesting, very thought-provoking, and I did very much enjoy it, even though it does very much touch on the very sad things in life, especially when there's conflict, you know. And one of the things it was making me think about is that we've got a lot of conflict in the world these days, haven't we? I mean, there's conflict in Eastern Europe, in the Middle East and other places around the world where we don't always hear about it on the news, where there are obviously other conflicts going on and other people being affected by these conflicts. So, you know, watching it at this time, I did find very poignant, thinking about what our current situation, what our possible futures are. So yeah, it was very interesting and very thought-provoking. It was very well done. It's very well acted, in my opinion, and it was very much an enjoyable watch, despite the fact of what the story and the content is about. So yeah, I very much enjoyed getting that. That was Anne Frank. Now, I'm sure I'd probably seen this previously, when it originally came out. Now, there isn't a date on here. Normally you have the year, it says, so you know what year it came out, but there isn't on this. But I think it was in the early 2000s, because it seemed familiar, so I'm pretty sure I'd already watched it once before. But yeah, very enjoyable. Now, this was released, let me just have a look at this, originally by, if I pronounce this wrong, I do apologise, Buena Vista Home Entertainment, and they're the original release of this particular film. So yeah, I did get that. I did watch it, and like I say, it's very thought-provoking and very poignant in its matter. So, but that was enjoyable. I'm glad I got that. And like I say, history is a great thing to look at, to watch, to learn about, and to understand. And sometimes it can actually be quite fun, even though the content of that particular one, you know, is dealing with much more darker issues. But yeah, history, a very interesting thing to be looking at. So that's it. I think that's all I've got to talk about, you know, except for the weather. Maybe I could talk about the weather, because we've had some quite, well, some people would say it would be horrible weather. Some people would say it would be really lovely weather. Some people would say it's enjoyable weather. But basically here in the UK, we've had snow quite early on in the year, or I should say at the end of this year. Normally we don't get snow until the beginning of the new year. So getting snow already, and we're not even in December, it's quite a rarity for us in the UK. So yeah, we've had a bit of snow. It's been a bit cold and a bit chilly and a bit out there. But I don't mind the snow too much, as long as I don't have to drive in it too much. If you're driving in it, that's when I really having to go out and drive when it's all wet and slushy and snowy and whatnot. It's just terrible. But you know, just looking at it or being out walking in it, that's brilliant. I don't mind doing that, even if it is rather cold and chilly. But yeah, we've had some snow in the UK. Not everywhere, not everybody's had snow or really much snow, but other places have had quite a bit of snow. But yeah, had a reasonable amount. I had to clear the top of the car off anyway to be able to go out in the car yesterday and today, but it's not a problem. I was okay with that. So yeah, snow in the UK already. I hope the rest of the winter's not going to be like this though. There you go. But anyway, that's it really. That's all I've got to say about for this week. That's me done with for the week. One make, part the way through make some mitts and a bit of thrifting. So there you go. What else can I talk about now? The weather, tried that. Let's move on. But anyway, there you go. That's my week. So if you did like my video, please do give it a thumbs up. Subscribe. That way you get notification of when my videos come out, especially if you click that bell icon. Please do comment. I do love reading your comments. It's always nice to hear what you're doing, what you're thinking, what you've been up to. And if you wish to talk amongst yourselves in the comments, please do, because that's why we come here, isn't it? To make that connection. So I think it's just left me to say thank you very much for watching my video. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.
Young.